In Part 1, we covered 15 Corvettes from Jay Leno's garage, but we ran out of time before the wildest stories. A soldier ordered one from Korea with 0 options. A racing team built one so good Jay bought it on the spot. And Jay sketched a car on a napkin that GM turned real. These are the ones we missed. Number 10. 1957 Corvette. A young soldier stationed in Korea during the 1950s placed an order for this car while he was still deployed, and his instructions to the dealer were very clear. Make it fast and make it light. He deleted the soft top. Gone. Deleted the heater. Gone. Deleted the radio, the courtesy lights, and everything else that added a single pound of weight. What stayed was a 283 cubic inch V8 with dual 4-barrel carburetors, making 270 horsepower, a 4-speed manual transmission, and 4.11 rear gears designed for drag racing. Jay's master restorer, Mike McCluskey, brought this car back to factory condition using only 1957 parts, from the windshield down to the generator. Only 65 Corvettes were painted in this exact Inca silver shade that year, and Jay has called it one of the best-looking color combinations the car ever wore. On his show, Jay made a point that put the whole thing in perspective. Most European sports cars in 1957, your MGs, your Triumphs, made about 65 horsepower. This car quadrupled that number, and the soldier who built it never asked for a single luxury, just speed. Jay still drives this one regularly. The engine bay is not showroom clean because this car works for a living. The only modification beyond the original spec is a set of vintage Hallebrand mag wheels and modern radial tires, so Jay can actually cruise the Pacific Coast Highway without worrying about 60-year-old rubber. He also swapped the original 4.11 gears for a set of 3.54s, which drops the RPM enough for highway driving. A soldier's dream car, still running hard almost 70 years later. And the next Corvette in this list was built by people who race them for a living. Number 9. 2008 Corvette C6RS by Pratt & Miller. Pratt & Miller run the Corvette racing program. These are the people behind every Corvette that has competed at Le Mans and the American Le Mans series. In the mid-2000s, they decided to build a street-legal version of the C6.R race car, and they called it the C6RS. Jay saw the car at the 2007 SEMA show and bought the very first one on the spot. No test drive, no negotiation. He wanted it. Only 7 C6RS models were ever built, and Jay owns number 1. The car starts as a standard C6 Z06, but Pratt & Miller tore it apart and rebuilt it from the ground up. The factory LS7 engine got swapped for a massive 8.2-liter V8 developed with racing engine builder K-Tech, naturally aspirated, putting out 600 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. That engine also ran on E85 flex fuel. The entire body got replaced with carbon fiber panels wider than the stock Z06, and the suspension system was computer-controlled with a front lift feature for speed bumps. The conversion alone cost $185,000, and that price did not include the Z06 donor car underneath. Pratt & Miller originally planned to build 25 of them, but 2 things killed the program. The 2008 financial crisis crushed demand, and then Chevrolet released a 2009 ZR1 with 638 horsepower at a much lower price. The C6RS was dead before it ever had a chance. Jay has put around 10,000 miles on his car and says it has never had a single mechanical issue. He called the interior the greatest Corvette interior he has ever seen, because Pratt & Miller spent 150 hours hand-stitching the leather in every single car. 7 exist. Jay got the first one, and the car that sits next to it in his garage is one he calls the greatest performance bargain in automotive history. Number 8. C5 Corvette Z06. Jay has said on camera that his C5 Z06 is the first truly great modern Corvette, and he drives it more than cars worth 10 times as much. The LS6 engine makes 385 horsepower. The car weighs about 3,100 pounds, and it handles in a way that makes you forget what decade you are in. He praised the C5 Z06 while sitting next to the brand new 2023 Z06 and said both cars represent the best of their era. What makes Jay's opinion carry weight is the fact that he compares a C5 Z06 directly against Ferraris, Porsches and McLarens that sit in the same garage. The C5 matched or beat cars costing 3 and 4 times more, and the LS engine family proved so reliable that owners regularly put 6-figure mileage on them without rebuilds. Jay pointed out that the C5 generation introduced the hydroformed chassis rails, the rear-mounted transaxle for better weight distribution, and the LS engine platform that would carry forward through 3 more Corvette generations. Everything that makes the modern Corvette great started with this car. A man worth hundreds of millions choosing a C5 Z06 for regular driving over his McLaren F1 or his Duesenbergs says more about the car than any review ever written. A friend of his put over 90,000 miles on a C5 with 0 breakdowns, which Jay brought up on camera to prove his point. But the next Corvette in Jay's garage was not bought. It was borrowed from the Vice President of the United States. Number 7. Joe Biden's 1967 Corvette Stingray. When a sitting vice president pulls up to your garage in a Goodwood Green 1967 Stingray, the cameras roll. Joe Biden brought his personal Corvette to Jay's show, and the backstory on this car goes all the way back to his wedding day. Biden's father gave him the 327-powered Stingray as a wedding gift in 1967, and Biden held on to it through every stage of his entire political career. Jay and Biden drove through the streets together on camera, while Secret Service agents followed behind in black SUVs. Biden talked about how his sons Beau and Hunter learned to drive in this car. Jay later joked that it was probably the only motorcade in history following a 50-year-old Corvette with no traction control and no airbags. The episode became one of the most watched clips from the entire show because it showed a completely different side of a sitting vice president. Not a politician delivering talking points, just a man who loved his car and remembered every story attached to it. Biden has said publicly that the 1967 Stingray is the one car he would never sell, no matter what. And coming from somebody who had access to the most advanced vehicles on Earth, that loyalty says everything about what the Corvette means to people who grew up with one. But the 1967 was not the only car from that era to show up at Jay's garage with a family story behind it. Number 6. Mark Roos's 1967 Corvette 427 convertible. GM President Mark Roos drove his father's 1967 Corvette 427 convertible to Jay's garage, and this car connects 3 generations of General Motors leadership. Lloyd Roos served as GM President in the early 1990s, and one of the projects he worked on during his career was a Powerglide 2-speed automatic transmission. That exact same Powerglide ended up in this 427-powered convertible, which makes the car a direct piece of his engineering legacy. Most Corvette buyers in 1967 ordered the 4-speed manual with a 427. Lloyd chose the Powerglide because he knew what it could handle, and drag racers to this day still praise that transmission for its bulletproof durability. When Mark drove it to Jay's Burbank facility, the two spent time talking about how this single car connects the old GM to the new GM. Lloyd built the transmission technology decades earlier. Mark inherited the car and the company presidency, and both men shared the same garage with a car making 1,064 horsepower, because that same episode featured the world's first public drive of the 2025 ZR1. Jay pointed out that most car collections are about chasing rare models and high-dollar auctions. This car is about something different. A father's work literally sitting inside his son's car 6 decades later. That kind of story does not come with a VIN decoder. And the next car on this list? Jay built it himself. Number 5. The EcoJet. Jay did not just collect Corvettes. He built one from scratch. The EcoJet started as a sketch on a napkin during a session with Ed Welburn, GM's vice president of design at the time. 8 months later, that napkin sketch became a real, functioning car that debuted at the 2006 SEMA show in Las Vegas. The foundation is a Corvette Z06 hydroformed aluminum frame with the C6's front suspension, brakes, and automatic transmission carried over. Everything else got custom built inside Jay's Big Dog garage. The heart of the car is a Honeywell LTS 101 turbine engine, the same type used in Bell 222 helicopters, producing 650 horsepower. It starts on kerosene and then switches to biodiesel made from soybean oil. The entire body is carbon fiber and Kevlar, which brings the total weight down to roughly 2,400 pounds. Jay worked with General Motors, Honeywell, Alcoa, and BASF to bring this project together, and the exterior was styled to look like a Cadillac rather than a Corvette. The car still exists in his collection, still runs, and still passes California emissions testing. a Corvette-based turbine machine that runs on vegetable oil, weighs less than a Miata, makes 650 horsepower, and was sketched on a napkin over lunch. That is the kind of project that only happens when you give unlimited resources to somebody who genuinely understands engineering. Number 4. 2015 Corvette Z06. The C7 took the supercharged route and changed the conversation. The LT4 engine packed a 1.7-liter E-tin supercharger on top of a 6.2-liter V8 and cranked out 650 horsepower with 650 pound-feet of torque. Jay featured the C7 on his show alongside European competitors that cost 2 and 3 times as much, and the Corvette held its own or won outright in every comparison. The available Z07 performance package added carbon ceramic brakes, Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, and adjustable aero elements that produce real downforce at speed. Jay pointed out on camera that the carbon ceramic brakes alone cost more than some entire cars, and Chevrolet offered them on a vehicle starting under $80,000. He made the broader point that the Corvette had stopped chasing European performance cars and started forcing them to justify their price tags. When a car making 650 horsepower with a factory warranty costs less than a base Porsche 911 Turbo, the whole market has to respond. Jay has said repeatedly that the C7 generation represents a turning point where GM stopped apologizing for the Corvette and started treating it like a world-class sports car. The interior quality jumped, the engineering matched anything from Stuttgart or Maranello, and the price stayed in a range that real people could actually reach. But the final front-engine Corvette took things even further. Number 3. 2019 Corvette ZR1. The last front-engine Corvette ever built was also the most powerful of the breed. The C7 ZR1 carried the LT5 engine, a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 producing 755 horsepower and 715 pound-feet of torque. The massive rear wing on the ZTK track package generated 950 pounds of downforce, and the car topped out at 212 miles per hour. Jay reviewed the 2019 ZR1 at the Spring Mountain Motor Resort in Nevada and said the car felt like a completely different animal compared to the Z06. The extra 105 horsepower changed the entire character of the vehicle. Chevrolet product specialist Shad Balch walked Jay through every detail, and the stat that stuck was that top speed number. No previous Corvette had ever touched 212, and the car did it with the air conditioning still running cold. Jay made the point that the 2019 ZR1 closed out a 67-year tradition. Every single Corvette from 1953 through 2019 placed the engine in front of the driver. This car was the last to do it, and Chevrolet made absolutely sure it went out with the highest horsepower, the highest top speed, and the most aggressive aerodynamics any front-engine Corvette had ever carried. The end of an era, screaming at 212 miles per hour. Number 2. 2004 Corvette Coupe. In a garage full of million-dollar exotics and custom-built turbine cars, Jay keeps a standard C5 Corvette Coupe from 2004. No special edition badges, no VIN 0001 bragging rights, just a clean, well-maintained coupe that he uses as a regular driver. Jay has been vocal about the fact that not every car in his collection needs a dramatic backstory. Sometimes a car earns a spot by being exactly what it should be, nothing more. The C5 platform delivered a balanced chassis, a reliable LS engine, and a driving experience that punched well above its price point. Jay told his audience that this is the kind of car he recommends to people who want a genuine sports car without the maintenance nightmares and depreciation curves that come with European machines. The 2004 sits in the same building as a McLaren F1 worth over $10 million. Jay drives both. The fact that a mass-produced Chevrolet earns equal seat time with one of the rarest supercars on the planet tells the entire story of what the Corvette does right. And the car that wraps up this list brought a piece of Le Mans racing technology straight to Jay's doorstep. Number 1. Tony Hawk's electric 1964 Corvette Stingray. Skateboarding legend Tony Hawk brought this fully electric 1964 Corvette Stingray to Jay's garage, and the car stopped Jay mid-sentence the second it pulled in. The original gas engine was pulled and replaced with an all-electric drivetrain, turning a classic C2 into a silent, instant torque machine that still wears the original body without a single exterior modification. Jay and Tony drove the car through the streets and talked about what happens when you take the most iconic American sports car body ever designed and give it a completely different heartbeat. The electric motor delivers instant torque from 0 RPM, which means the car launches harder off the line than the original V8 ever could. Jay admitted on camera that he was surprised by how fast it moved and how natural the driving experience felt despite having no engine noise at all. Tony explained that he wanted to keep driving a classic Corvette without dealing with the maintenance headaches that come with a 60-year-old engine and a 60-year-old fuel system. The conversion gave him a car that looks exactly like 1964 on the outside, but drives like 2024 underneath. Jay called it a glimpse into the future of the collector car world, where classic body styles survive by swapping out the drivetrain instead of getting parked in a museum forever. 10 Corvettes, 7 decades of history. From a soldier's stripped-down drag weapon to a skateboard legend's electric time machine. That is the Jay Leno Corvette universe. And Part 1 only scratched the surface. If you made it this far, you know we go deep. Click the video on screen right now because the car stories coming next are even crazier than this.